Hello, my name is Neisha Young, and I am an assistant professor of English education in the English department at Stony Brook University. And my research centers around immigrant identity and storytelling. And the overarching question that I ask is, how do dominant discourses shape immigrant identity in terms of how immigrants are perceived, and how do those perceptions influence their experiences and their trajectories here, especially in the United States? And so I examine the influence of storytelling on immigrant experiences. And then I ask, well, instead of stories told about immigrants, how can we create spaces for immigrants to tell stories about who they are, right? So instead of stories told about immigrants, how can we create spaces for stories told by immigrants? And then how can we draw on digital platforms and tools to amplify these authentic narratives in ways that they can directly interact with and disrupt these dominant discourses? Now, my research agenda is influenced by my identity as an immigrant and also by my identity as a teacher. I worked in the K-12 education system for over a decade, and I saw where often when we received new immigrant youth, we were bombarded with deficit portrayals of their identities. And so this led me to examine how our policies and our pedagogical approaches might shift if instead of being told who our students were by others, students were able to tell us who they were. And so that's the crux of my research. And so most recently, I engaged with African youth, African immigrant youth from West African nations. And we utilized podcasting to interrogate several dominant discourses about their linguistic ability and other aspects of their identity. And then they were able to respond agentively to these discourses. And we published these podcast episodes in an effort to have them disrupt these dominant discourses about immigrant youth identity. Beyond that, I've also been working with immigrants from the Caribbean and just asking, what is your immigration story? And phase one of that research, we compiled those narratives based on themes that emerged across the narratives, and we shared those as part of a museum exhibit at the Penn Museum. So this is the line of research that I do, looking at these different forms of discriminatory discourses about immigrant identity, and then drawing on multiliteracies, critical pedagogies, and other critical frameworks to provide room and space for immigrants to interrogate and respond authentically and agentively to these discourses and disseminate these responses in ways that they can then interact with and disrupt, these broader societal, institutional, and affinity discourses.